Welcome to TruPowur, home of the most powerful marketing tools, training, and technology on planet Earth. Get ready to earn, enjoy, and experience more than you ever dreamed was possible. If you're tired of just getting by and ready to really thrive, then buckle in and listen up. Here's your host, Matt Fox.
Hello, and welcome this fine day. Today on episode 270 of TruPowur Academy, we are going to be talking about natural gas contracts for residential and commercial customers and how you can expand your revenue and help more customers along the way. So without any further ado, let me share my screen and let's jump right into it. All right. So by now, everybody should know how to access the quick launch menu. It is at TruPowur.directory, and you can access virtually everything that you need to have access to from the quick launch menu. So that is something that you should always have up and available to you. So a couple of things that I want to point out, that we're always making changes and updates and adding new features and things like that. So sometimes if you watch an older training, it might look a little bit different, but usually the functionality is going to be the same or be a little bit better, because as time goes by, we continually upgrade things. So there has been a couple of new sections that have been added to the quick launch menu. One is the commission area, which helps you understand a little bit more how commissions are calculated and things like that. And we should have the rest of these fields updated by the 15th of October. We've been going through and updating a lot of that information for you. So it'll make things a lot easier and answer a lot of questions. Also, outside of your typical email, you do have some of the addresses for contacting the different support arms. So if you need that, that's available as well. So the first thing that we want to do is really understand the difference between deregulated matrix and deregulated custom pricing. So if we go into the back of the pricing platform, which is under the commercial link, and from here, under the menu hamburger, if you select Market Overview, it by default will show you a picture of the United States, and this is for commercial custom pricing. That is basically the reverse auction. So anytime we talk about custom pricing, we're talking about the reverse auction. And so what you're seeing here is in green is natural gas, and the dark blue is natural gas and electricity. So custom pricing is a much larger footprint, and you can click on any state and it will give you a list of the different suppliers in each one of those states to kind of give you just kind of a ballpark idea as to who, what, when, and where. But this is all custom pricing. And so when you look at the difference between custom pricing and matrix pricing, so matrix pricing is the pricing that the suppliers issue on a daily basis through the matrix sheets that are tied into the platform and updated. So you can see that matrix pricing is a much, much smaller footprint. Again, the dark blue is electric and natural gas. Light blue is just electric. Green is just natural gas. So keep in mind that no state is 100% deregulated. So don't get frustrated at some point in your career if you find that you have a customer and for some reason there's not pricing available in that specific area. So, for example, close to my home is a township called Frisco, Texas, and it is not deregulated. So anybody in that area wouldn't really be able to do anything, at least from an electric and natural gas point of view. On the residential side, again, the footprint is a little bit smaller. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at different things. So when you're looking at pricing and you don't see it, check the map, make sure, is it available for matrix pricing or is it available for custom pricing? All states qualify for the utility audit, but we want to focus on areas where we're going to be able to provide the customer the greatest amount of value. So if you always key in by using the market updates, you're insured to make sure that those customers that you're helping are going to be in areas where we can facilitate transactions at a much higher level. So if you look at this is updated at the close of business every afternoon. So you're looking at yesterday, but commercial electricity, you have Delaware, Illinois, Massachusetts, Maryland, Maine, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Pennsylvania for commercial natural gas, DC, Maryland, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Virginia for residential electric and residential natural gas. So if you're requesting leads to be added within your CRM, it's a good idea to focus on the states that you see here because it's going to give you the maximum amount of benefit to facilitate as much as possible and the greatest amount of savings. So the analytics is done across all territories on a daily basis, analyzed, and then this report is put up so that it helps you work with customers where you can provide the greatest amount of value. So hopefully that makes sense. And understanding the different areas for pricing as well. So custom pricing is the reverse auction, and matrix pricing is pricing that is done via matrix sheets that are added into the system. So if I put in a zip code, say like Chicago, I know that the pricing that I'm going to see, these are all matrix pricing. So this is updated on a daily basis. So just so that you understand the difference between the matrix pricing and custom pricing. The custom pricing is the reverse auction that takes on average 3 days, where the suppliers bid and counterbid against each other, driving the price typically going to be below what you would see on matrix pricing. So it's going to be beneficial for the customer as well. But knowing which states offer matrix pricing and which states offer custom pricing is important when you start working with a customer. So that's important. So the next thing is to take a look at the residential side. Now, if you click on the residential pricing website, this is what the public sees. They don't need to log in. Your back office requires a login in order to see that. That's not for customers to view because that obviously shows your commissions and things like that. But up here at the top, you can see where you need to add your sales code. So if you put in your sales code, which is the same as your 3-digit extension number, and hit apply, you'll see that the sales code has been applied. Typically, if you've done it once, it will stay there. So the next time that I pull that up, it is going to automatically add that in there. Why is that important? Anything that you do residential is done through the front of the platform. And if you don't have this sales code in there, it's not going to show up in your back office. It's going to look like somebody just did a deal for TruPowur in general, and it's not somebody that you've spoken to. So we want to make sure that you get credit for it. If you accidentally happen to put a deal in, obviously you're going to know the details about that customer. So you don't have a crystal ball. So if you do make a mistake, just let support know and they can transfer that back over to your account. From here, you have residential, small business, and large business. They're basically the same. The only thing that is an identifier is that if somebody were to click small business, it is typically looking at any kind of monthly bill that is a spend of $10,000 and under. If they select large business, which is over, it's going to actually require them to fill out a lot more details, which will end up going to you and be able to facilitate working with that customer, most likely with the reverse auction or custom pricing in order to afford them the best deal. Otherwise, if they just look at small business, they're going to get the pricing right on the page. Now, there are some limitations. Obviously, on the back office, you have a lot more control over the scenario. So anytime you have the customer's information, it's much better to do it through the back office. So residential, you have electric by default, and we have natural gas. So if you put in the zip code of the customer, it is going to automatically select the utility. And so this is not the supplier. And when you look at the bill may be Reliant or NG or something like that. That is the supplier. That's not the utility. This here represents the utility that actually supplies the energy. So when you click Get Rates, it is going to bring up the rate sheet, which is the Matrix pricing. And you can see that there is the rates and terms and a sign up button. And so unless you put in some information that is going to update this information, then it is not going to show you any kind of savings that is available. So you need to make sure that you update whatever their past usage was, that's annually, and then what is their current rate in order to do that. So clicking sign up is a straightforward process, filling out all of the information. Once you hit next, it's going to go to a verification page, which in essence is just going to allow you to review the information that you've input before you hit final and submit. When you do that, it is going to send the customer an email with a link that they need to click in order to facilitate the approval. So a lot of companies use what is called third-party verification, where they have to actually get the customer on the phone with a third-party verification company, and they go through all of this rigmarole. And if they have a question, then everything stops. You got to go back, answer the question, and then go back through third-party verification and start all over again. It's really kind of archaic, and it's not necessary. So what we did was to improve that system by analyzing it to say that the system understands that the person who is entering this information, which is most likely you, the IP address does not belong to the address that you put on the customer's information. So it's automatically going to send a text and or a email to the customer. And so all you need to do really is just let that customer know that our system has sent you a verification link. If you could click that link and read back the response for my records, makes them feel a little bit less anxious about clicking a link that was just sent to them. And once they click it, then that verifies the order. So that makes the process a lot easier. So that is residential. We've done a lot of residential trainings in the past. It's the same for electric as it is natural gas, other than you're dealing with therms versus kWh. So let's jump into the commercial side or the back office of the pricing platform. And again, if you're looking for that map, go right up here to the top right-hand corner where you see menu, and you can click on Market Overview, and that will bring up that map of the different territories and what is available in each one of those. So there's a couple ways in order to get pricing at this point. So if we're wanting matrix pricing and we just want to look at it real quick, we can certainly just hit instant quote, put in the zip code for that customer, and then make sure if we're talking about natural gas, by default, it is set to electricity. So if we're talking about natural gas, we need to change that to natural gas and then put in whatever their usage is. You can select your margins. By default, it's set to 5 cents per therm, which is the equivalent of 5 mils for the electric. And the price to compare, you want to put whatever it is that they're currently paying. And we're going to go over how do you calculate that in just a moment. And from here, you can hit search. That will update the system. You can look at what the market says. Prices are currently typical for natural gas quotes. Anytime you see this in the lower third, it's really good. It's exceptionally good if you're down here in the green. So pricing right now is actually pretty decent, and it's going to get better over the next couple of months. And then going into December, January, and February, you may see these rates increase just because more people are going to be using natural gas. So now's a really good time to quote people on natural gas. And if you recall from the footprint of the commercial custom pricing, you have a much bigger audience when it comes to natural gas pricing. So from here, you have all of your suppliers and the different rates that are available. It will automatically calculate out your commissions as to whether you want annual upfronts or residuals, which are monthly. So all of that is already taken care of for you. So if we are going to put in the price to compare, how do we calculate that? Well, it's kind of interesting. So I am going to pull up a bill, and a lot of times when I'm entering things into the system, I don't want to have to go back and forth. So what I typically will do is pull up a notepad so that I can just put it right alongside. And that way it makes it very easy for me to see what's to the left or behind the screen, and then be able to type that out so that when I go to enter this information in, it makes it very easy to just highlight it and hit Control C to copy it and Control V to paste, so that when I go back into the system and I'm going to enter that customer's information, then it makes it very easy for me to move forward by just copying and pasting that information back and forth. So I can Alt-Tab and copy that information and move forward. So makes it real easy when you're trying to transpose information from a PDF, which you can't swipe. So it makes it much easier if you have a notepad where you can transpose that information that you can grab and move rather quickly. So how do we calculate out their usage? So with natural gas, we're talking about therms. The first thing that we need to figure out is how much are they using on an annual basis? Now, this particular bill does not tell us exactly what their annual usage is. But if you look at this graph, you can get a pretty good idea as to a very close ballpark. And I will usually kind of keep it just a little bit under. As long as I'm pretty close, what I want to do is just get that usage as close as possible. It's going to automatically get updated in the system anyway. But we want to have at least a fair chance of making sure that we have the usage that the customer is using. So once we've calculated or added up what their annual usage is, a lot of suppliers will actually post on the bill what their usage is annually. Some of them don't. So you may have to go through this graph step by step and add that up. But now let's figure out how much is it that this customer is actually paying. If you look at this bill, most of the time when a customer looks at this, they see customer charge over the last 29 days was 49 cents. So, but that's not really realistic. A lot of times, if you've seen in past trainings where I've shown you where a customer has $300 worth of bill and they've used 200 or 2,000 kWh, that's not 7 cents, that's 15 cents. So we need to figure out how much does this customer actually pay. Well, we don't need to take into account the surcharges and the taxes and things like that. So we'll use this number, which is 459. So we take 459, which I have right here, and then whatever their usage is for this month, which is right here, the 298. So if we take a calculator and we take 459 and we divide it by 298, that is $1.54 or 154 cents. So now we know that this customer pays 154 cents. So now it's going to make it much easier for us to be able to put a quote together for this particular customer. For the sake of time, we have already entered the customer's information into the system, so we don't need to go back through that process. So all we need to do is click on the customer contract. Now, just so you know, this customer contract number is an internal. That's not their contract with the supplier. That is just a contract number that we have in the system to keep track of different states, different suppliers, different things like that. So once we click on that, it is going to open up the customer information page, which has a lot of variables on it. So customer's information here, the agent or broker's information is down below. Here we have the ability to send that customer an LOA, a letter of authorization. So if we were doing a reverse auction, we would definitely want to get the LOA and the LOE signed off. So if you click that, it's not going to open a page, allow you to do something. As soon as you click it, it is electronically in a form of a DocuSign, is sending that customer a form that they need to sign off on. And what these two documents do is the letter of authorization allows us to get an accurate reading of their usage from the utility, and the LOE, which is a letter of exclusivity. If we want to include their current supplier in the reverse auction, we need to have that letter of exclusivity. Otherwise, soon as you post that, if you run a reverse auction and you include that supplier and you don't have the LOE, they're going to take that customer into retention and do a deal behind your back and you will be aced out of a deal. So make sure that if you're doing any kind of reverse auction or custom pricing, that you always get the LOA and the LOE signed off. It's your protection. And it also makes sure that we have an accurate reading of their usage. That's good for the customer, because if I have underscored what their usage actually is, sometimes that next level of usage will give that customer a much greater advantage in pricing, as well as if it's a custom pricing scenario, the suppliers are going to be more aggressive with a customer that has higher usage than less. So it's really to their advantage. And so we're going to go ahead and look at today's rates. And we'll hit update. And so now we see that we've got some rates in here, but we don't have any savings. So why is that? Well, we need to change the price to compare. So that was 154. Here we go. And the usage, or the 5,700 annual therms. So now when we come down, you're always going to see the best three at the top. So if you want to just skip down to below that, this is where you're going to see the rest of those deals. You got 60 months, 48 months, 36 months. It looks like on a 60-month term, we could lower that customer from $1.54 down to 96 cents. That's pretty decent. So that would save the customer $16,000 over a 5-year period, and create some really good residual or upfront commission. Now, you can obviously play with the margins if you want, but for this training, we just want to make sure that we've got the price to compare in there, we've got the customer's information in there, and then how do we go about creating a proposal? So if we want to get a custom quote, that is the same thing as the reverse auction, hence the auction hammer, right? So if we're doing a reverse auction, we would click that, and that would give us an opportunity to request a reverse auction for custom pricing. In this episode, we are going to be talking about creating that proposal. So the first thing that we want to do is generate the proposal. And I always like to make sure that I've got 3 variables in there. And so I'm going to use 60, 48, and 36 months for fixed all in. Hit next, and select. Now, you do have the ability to change the margins on different contracts. So let's just say, for example, you've got this right here. All 3 of these are SFE. That's in California. California deregulation is probably one of the worst states of all. But how do we know that the customer would take 60-month term, which would be to your advantage because you would have residual income for the next 5 years, versus these? Let's say that all 3 of these were at $1 and you wanted to make the 60-month term more enticing, because a customer may think, maybe I'll just go with a shorter term contract. If all of the pricing or the rate for the energy for all 3 contracts were the same rate, if they were all $1, customer may have in their mind, maybe I'll take a short term contract and then reevaluate that down the road. So how could I make that a little bit more enticing to a 60-month term? Well, you could adjust those margins. So if you wanted to, let's say, for example, if we raise that to 10 mils and we raise this one to 10 mils, and let's say, or 5 cents, let's lower this to, just for this example, let's lower that to 3. So now you can see that it's making it a lot more dramatic where the rate, because the margin is going to have a small, but an effect on what the outcome is on that deal. So if I set it up like this, customer is more likely to take advantage of the best rate possible. So once I hit next, the system is going to update. Now, right now, it's taking the total amount of therms, annual therms, and dividing it evenly. We need to move that information from their bill up here. So if we do that, we know that this one is, you can change these specific to whatever that customer's usage is. So you can update that. I'm going to, for the sake of this training, I'm just going to go ahead and hit submit and then hit download so that you can see what that proposal would look like so that you know how to send that to the customer. So let's go ahead and open up the proposal. So it's got the customer's name, the broker's name, and what their current rate is in usage, and the 3 different contracts available. So you have 36, 48, and 60. So you can see that the annual savings on the 60-month term is $3,300 a year versus 27 or 26. So it's going to really push that customer towards the 60-month term contract. And then it's going to break that down based on best savings as to what that looks like for annual savings. That's a 38% reduction, saving them $16,000 over the 5-year period. So that's pretty significant. So how do we go about putting that and getting that off to the customer? So jump into our CRM. Go up to our leads. And if this were the customer, you just would pull their information up, click on email, and from here you can select the template that says supplier savings proposal. Don't forget to rename the proposal. So when I attach it, the name of this customer is AV Party Rental. So if I copy that and I'm going to attach that, then I am going to open that. I'm going to take that proposal, click it one time. Come on. There we go. So now I've renamed it. And now I'm going to attach it. And so now it's attached to the email. It's automatically going to bring in the customer's information and remember, we're initially contacting the customer for an audit. So as soon as you get the bill, you'll upload it to the auditors and then immediately put that into the pricing platform to see what, if any, additional benefit we can provide that customer at the supplier level, and then create the proposal and then immediately email it to the customer and then follow up with a phone call. My conversation is generally, hey, Roy, just wanted to let you know that I received your utility bill safe and sound. The auditors are already underway. In fact, during the initial investigation, We found additional savings that were identified on the account. I sent you an email with some additional information. If you take a look at that, give me a call. I'll go over the details. So basically hit send and off it goes. Soon as that customer opens that email, a pop-up will appear on the screen letting you know. So you can always follow back up with that customer the moment that they have what you sent them in front of them, not when they're at Home Depot or out to dinner or whatever. So it's always to your benefit to follow back up with that customer immediately. So it's important that when you're entering those deals and you get those utilities to upload those to the auditors, but then immediately go into the pricing platform, enter that information in there. If you need assistance, I'm more than happy to walk you through that process. But I think that this should help you navigate some of those questions and how to do that pretty straightforward. So you upload it to the auditors, put it into the pricing platform. If there's benefit, create the proposal, send that to the customer. Soon as that customer says, hey, that's fantastic. What do I need to do to make that happen? My response would be, well, the how is not so important as much as when do you want that savings to start? Nobody ever wants savings to start later. So they always want it now. So all you have to do at that point is really come down here and then click sign up. Now, this is actually a real client, so I'm not going to do that yet. But all you need to do is click sign up. It is going to pull the contract for that supplier from that state, fill it out for you, and send it to the customer for an electronic signature. Once the customer signs off on that contract, this will go from pending to request to signed. And then that will, soon as that is signed, it will automatically update the platform from request price to signed. It will send the supplier and you an email notification letting you know that you now have a signed contract. And the supplier will come in, verify everything is copacetic, and then they will sign off on it, and it will go from signed to completed. Once it's completed, then it is now a commissionable event and you can get paid on it. So I hope that that helped answer a lot of questions when it comes to doing natural gas. It's very similar to what we do for the residential and commercial electric. All right, so I want to pause here for a moment and open the floor for a little Q&A. And get some of your questions answered. If you're watching this on a replay, you know that we do not record the question and answer session. So next time, if you have questions, join us live. So we'll be back in just a moment. Well, that was great information. I appreciate everybody being on the call today. And as always, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So have fun storming the castle. Bye now.